Hello Horror Hounds, welcome to my horror house. I would like to talk about a film called The Exorcism of God, which I saw recently and will fully admit that I only gave it a try because I found the title so intriguing. I think it's fair to say that even 50 years later, The Exorcist is still the high watermark for possession and exorcism movies, and most other possession and exorcism movies that have come since are incredibly derivative of William Friedkin and William Peter Blatty's movie. And it is rare to find an interesting new take on possession and exorcism. I am not here to pretend that The Exorcism of God reinvents the wheel. I'm not even here to pretend that it's not in many ways derivative of The Exorcist. But what I was surprised by and unprepared for was that it was derivative in some really interesting ways. Yes, our main American priest operating in Mexico is called Father Peter Williams. Do you get it? William Peter Blatty, author of The Exorcist, and our main character is named Peter Williams. Yes, there is a scene where a possessed woman vomits green onto a priest. And yes, this movie practically opens with the poster shot from The Exorcist, with the taxi pulling up, the priest getting out, the shaft of light coming from the bedroom window where the possessed woman is. But strangely, what The Exorcism of God does is it starts where The Exorcist ends. Yeah, the taxi pulls up, the priest gets out, they go upstairs, the exorcism begins, then the demon jumps into the priest. And then it takes a massive left turn into some really unexpected exploitation, really sleazy territory. I've read and watched quite a lot of reviews of this that pussyfoot around the setup for this movie, and I'm not going to pussyfoot around it because I think the shocking nature of this movie and the sort of sleazy exploitation gloss it's got over it, this sort of sticky, icky sheen, is exactly why I'm recommending this movie if you can handle films like that. But the priest goes up to the room. The person who is possessed happens to be a nun that he knows. And whilst possessed, the demon tries to seduce him. When that doesn't work, the demon jumps into him. And I'm just going to come out and say it. He rapes her. And my jaw hit the floor. Luckily, it's implied rather than shown. Otherwise, I think that would have been an absolute step too far. But wow, they went there. Then we have a time jump, some 18 years. This priest, Peter Williams, I'm never getting over that name, is working with orphaned children. He's working down in Mexico, doing good work. No one knows his terrible secret. He's trying to atone. He's made confession but has never done his penance because he still feels so ashamed about this, even though he also tries to write it off as, oh, it wasn't me, I was possessed. And he's being called now a living saint. And I'll be honest, he's not doing much to try and dissuade people from this notion. He's probably living the priestly life that he imagined when he followed the calling. And he gets word that there is a possessed woman in the local prison, and he's called to confront her. And yeah, she's possessed, and yeah, it's the same demon that he battled 18 years ago that was briefly inside him, that caused him to rape a nun. And wait for the other shoe to drop, the 17-year-old girl who's now possessed is his daughter. Yeah. I mean, it's Mondo, right? And like I say, the possessions themselves, the things that happen, the look of the possessed people are wildly derivative of Friedkin's movie. But beyond the sheer, holy shit, they went there, they're telling, this is the story they're telling of the thing. I don't want to oversell this, but there are some ideas behind the story of The Exorcism of God that I have been mulling over for about a week now. I find them intensely interesting. It is interesting in the iconography of the Catholic Church, the statues, the crucifixes. There is, at one point, Father Williams prays to a life-size wooden carving of a crucified Jesus, and when he looks up, Jesus is no longer on the cross. At another point in the movie, one of the nuns is praying to a lifelike statue of the Virgin Mary, and when she glances up again, that statue disappears. From those points, we see possessed versions of those statues. Not quite a possessed Jesus, but a possessed wooden carving of Jesus. Not quite a possessed Virgin Mary, but a possessed avatar of the statue of her. Weird, crazy sort of heretical things being done to this sort of holy iconography that I absolutely dig. As someone who was raised Catholic, now an agnostic at best, atheist probably, I'm amazed that more people don't work with that Catholic imagery. So I just thought, what an obvious idea. When you see it done, an idea that's so good that you instantly think, why has no one else done this before? So I really dug that aspect of it. The film builds to, naturally, an exorcism set in the Mexican jail. Multiple people get possessed. So there's short sequences where possessed people en masse are treated, maybe more like you would see in a zombie movie than a possession movie. And the title actually does make sense. One of the other things I find really successful about this movie is that the title is not just there for its shock value. It is actually the purpose of the demon, and the demon does have a purpose. It's not just a random possession or series of possessions. There is an end goal for the demon, which I always appreciate and find interesting in these. And to spoil the title of the movie for you, the plan is almost to perform a reverse exorcism. There's this notion in the film that God and the devil cannot exist within the same person. So in order to fully inhabit this priest, who is the target all along, they have to get God out of him. The demon has to exorcise God from the priest so it can inhabit him. And that's a nice, neat little twist to the normal possession story that makes you think, oh, okay, there's some weird and interesting and, dare I say, original things going on beneath the surface of a film that seems to be quite happy to play fast and loose with the accepted norms of possession movies as have been laid down for 50 years since The Exorcist. The penny finally drops at the end and you see what the end game is. I also found that very interesting. Even to the point where if there was a direct sequel to this movie, I would probably watch it to find out what happened next. And yet the most interesting thing for me about this movie is the subtext that's hinted on, the hypocrisy of organised religion, and dare I say it, perhaps the inherent hypocrisies of people who set themselves up as exemplars of a pure and holy and sin-free life. Because what this film really is intensely critical and suspicious of the priests and the priesthood and the organised religion, not suspicious and cynical about the notion that there is a God or forces for good or anything like that, but perhaps the selfish motivations of people in these organisations that undermine and belie what they present to the world, and what they say to the world is their purpose. So yes, a really exploitative, really sleazy, sometimes strangely original, other times starkly derivative, unexpected exploration into quite meaty themes about the possible hypocrisy of organised religion. I was not expecting that from a film called The Exorcism of God, but there you go.
I bid you welcome.
I welcome you to my house.
Welcome to my house.
Welcome to my home.